Well, hello there, folks. Gentlemen,
Hey
how you
guys,
doing?
doing good. Just made it back to location. So I'm
That,
back in the saddle.
that picture in the background looks awfully familiar.
I think it's in like every room.
All right. Well, so today we have we don't actually really know where this idea originated because we've been talking about it for months. We think it originated with Steve, but
Yeah, blame it on me.
yeah, I will just because you're the old guy, you can take it.
Okay.
But we've been talking about this idea so much in our in our production chats that we don't really know who started this anymore. But the idea is people always say that their problem with the red pill is not the descriptions. They go, "Oh yeah, no, we agree with those." There's a clip that's now famous in the red pill community of Jeremy Boring say, like I agree with 95% of what the red pill guys say. I just don't agree with how they choose to deal with it. Well, okay. But when you actually listen to them talk, they completely ignore the descriptors. They don't want to talk about them. They don't want to bring them up.
Yeah, another way to say that. Well, it's not what these guys believe that's the problem. It's what they do. It's they're acting promiscuous. And I don't believe in that. It's not their beliefs, it's their actions. Well, how we came about this, I think, is we talk offline after stream, and I said, yeah, gee, seems like these guys, I throw out a proposal. Are they having a problem under accepting the descriptors that women operate differently than men want to believe they do? I mean, it was kind of a proposal of an idea, but I didn't know if I believed at the time I threw it out there. And then we talked about it for a while, and we said, yeah, this seems to have some merit. And we've
There's a
developed.
narrative to be there's a narrative to be exposed.
Yeah.
Well,
Or exposed or explored, or maybe it's the third rail of content creation that we don't talk about this stuff.
so Steve and I were talking. I don't know if I think it was either this morning or yesterday. I was driving back. Um, Everybody, like he was saying, yeah, everybody says it's the prescriptions that they don't like. That it's just it's you're a degenerate. It's degenerate. Da, 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 da. Okay. I'm like, okay, why do they keep saying that? But it seems like underneath all of that, I mean, you could say that, and that's fine. That some of the prescriptions you think are immoral, and that's fine. But underneath that, is it really the prescriptions that they have a problem with, as Steve was saying, or is it that just a veil, a camouflage,
Well, you can have
and
a
that they
problem.
really have a problem with reality, the descriptions of the red pill?
Well, let me put it differently. Yes, of course, you have a problem with the prescriptions. Yes, many prescriptions and what these men do is is not consistent with Christian beliefs. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yep,
accept that.
we agree.
But I also know that men act, however they act, and I can't control other men. So yeah, I can disagree, but just because I disagree with their actions shouldn't mean I disagree with them personally or attack them. Which, if I'm throwing everything out, just dismissing everything they say, that's akin to an ad hominem attack.
Well, it's Steve. It's kind of like what Matt Walsh did, or it was Matt Walsh or Michael Knowles said. Well, I will never say their names because I don't like them. Okay, Okay. So your whole thing is you can't talk to people who are presenting you with data. And they're and and instead of trying to engage with them and say, "Hey, look, maybe this prescription isn't such a good idea," you say, "No, I can't talk to them." And I think that's kind of what Steve's trying to get at. What he's trying to say is that or what we're trying to get at here is you cannot say, "Oh, well, my problem isn't with the descriptions, only the prescriptions," and then proceed to immediately shoot the messenger who's trying to tell you what the descriptions are.
Well, yeah, and our stream, we're kind of equal opportunity offenders because the Christian guys don't agree with what we say,
Nope.
and the red pill guys have problems with what we say.
Yep.
And here we are talking about stuff, and man, we kind of get pushback from both sides. It's fun.
If you're not starting fires, you're not doing anything.
Guilty is charged. Yes. And
Now, here's one thing, and there's one difference though between the Christians and the non-Christians, or the red pill guys, if you will. The red pill guys might not like us, but in general, they're willing to engage the ideas, because in this space, in the red pill space, they have built a culture of engaging with ideas. They might not like it. They might really want to spit it up, and they will try to attack it, but they attack it from a spirit of, we're trying to find better data. You're bringing a new idea to the table. Let's test this idea. Let's really put it through the ringer. Compare that to what Michael Knowles does. Oh, well, I just can't talk to these guys because they don't like me and I don't like them.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
it's kind of a sophistry.
You mean
I'm not going to
on
engage.
Knowles?
I'm not going to engage I'm not going to engage the argument, but I'm just going to ad hominem. I'm just going to say I don't like them, so therefore I'm going to reject them. I'm not going to actually engage the argument because of feelings.
Well, if you
some
watch,
other thing.
well, if you watch the interview that Knowles did with Pearl, I think you see a lot of that where he was really in his feelings. Like, when Glenn's in the background, basically saying, "Would you really do this to your kids?" And he goes, "Yes, I would." And the whole world's going, watching, go, "Wait a minute. Like, really? You would tell your kid to wife up a whore?"
But she's a repentant whore who has found Jesus and been redeemed.
Okay.
Doesn't that make it okay?
Supposedly.
Yeah, so I agree with Nick. There's a whole lot of supposedly there.
Not supposedly, self-proclaimed. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Watch behavior, not words.
Right.
And it doesn't erase the past. There's a whole lot of baggage that comes with that makes it not generally a wise decision to make.
And we're not going to we've done that stream before, so we're not going to go too far down that path. But
there's a lot of purity posturing. Oh, that's what I'm going to call it. I don't know. Different than purity spiraling. It's just purity posturing.
You mean from like the well, I don't know, we can call them the Christ pill wing of the Michael Knowleses of the world. Is that what you're?
Well, that and the wayward woman that comes back and talks a good story. She's posturing about her newfound purity.
Yep.
And men are kind of posturing their purity because I'm so Christ-like and I love so deeply that I will accept these sinners who come back to the fold.
Yep.
So our presentation today is not that polished.
No.
If it was, I would have turned this, my notes into a PowerPoint. So we You only have to bring up one at a time. But anyway, do you want to bring up my screen share and we'll just go through that?
So
Is-
are these all the descriptors, Steve?
No.
Well, this is not really it these allude to the descriptors. I
Okay.
kind of think it's implications of the descriptors.
Okay.
Because
So-
the descriptor would be a man can by what he does, he can cause her to act a certain way. Okay, but the real truth is woman's behavior is beyond a man's control. Not beyond his influence, but beyond his control. So the Christ pill guys think just pray harder. Just be a more faithful man. Just love harder.
Yeah.
And the red pill guys say, well, just game her in this way. Push these buttons, tweak this knob, behave in a dominant way. And then you're going to get this outcome. The truth is, yes, by your behavior, you can increase the probability that she will
Okay.
act a certain way. But still, it's beyond your control. And at some point, you're going to, you're an imperfect man. So something's going to escape you. You're not going to
So you
realize.
don't. So the red pill doesn't automatic. So the Christ pill, the church people, and the red pill don't give you the immortal God mode with women. What makes you invulnerable to everything,
Nope.
and that you can totally dominate.
Nope.
There's no guarantee. No.
So, oh man, so there's no game genie. It's not.
Game genie. I love it.
No. But gee, don't both say, well, buddy, if you would have acted differently, you'd have a different outcome. The Christ pill guys say, well, gee, you really didn't pray with her every day for 15 minutes. You really didn't go to church every Sunday. You really didn't lead your children and your wife in the faith. You didn't do all these things. No wonder your marriage destroyed.
No,
And-
to be sure, there's some guys that do f that up,
Sure.
Oh, of course.
but they make it like every guy does that
But
when bad crap happens.
Well, that's the difference. It's become, as Steve said, purity posturing. It's
Right.
if something goes wrong, all of a sudden it's not, two people. It's here's a list of things you didn't do. One of them clearly is the thing that broke her, and forced her to leave. So again, this goes back to what we've said before. Both sides view women as having no agency. They are simply just responding to input stimuli from the world and you. Have you ever just had a random woman who you ran perfect game on and she still said no to you? Maybe she just wasn't in the mood for that.
yeah, I got to clarify this. I'm not picking on RP Thor. I'm not. But this idea that if you have a dominant masculine presence, it will guarantee an outcome. No, it will greatly increase your probability. And you should have that.
Yes.
And I totally agree with the message. I have no qualms about that at all. I agree. But
Problem is, the people act like it's a game genie.
Well, I think really what happens is people take some of these prescriptions like that, and they assume that if they do them, they will get the outcome they want. That's not an RP Thor problem. That's a reader's problem. I don't even think there's anything you can do or say to that. But again, this goes back to the descriptor is kind of the problem here. because these guys are saying, "Oh, well, if I just do this prescription, this will happen," and they ignore the description.
Of course, the true RP red pill guys do have an answer to that. If she doesn't follow and if she's misbehaving, be willing to walk away.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with that too. That's a hard thing to do.
For a lot of men, yeah.
Yeah, for me. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I could do it now, but I didn't do it in the past. I kept trying. But okay, so, it's important to talk about these things because there are solutions. We have to talk about them so we can understand it. Because even though I know something in my mind about what I should do, doesn't mean I'm actually going to do it in the moment. So we have to keep talking about this in order to get it clear in our mind about why these things are true and why it makes sense and how it's actually loving, and it increases your chances of not having to walk away by being willing to walk away.
Well, that goes back to something that Nick said back when we did our stream on agency. If you do not have a good grasp on the truth, how can you expect to make good choices?
Sure.
And this is I forget who brought it up in that stream, but the OODA loop, the OODA, observe, orient, decide, and act. Or another way to say it, if you're a little more into science and math like I am, cause and effect. The OODA loop is a way of dealing with cause and effect. It's a system for dealing with it.
Yeah, but it's not a one-shot deal.
Nope.
It's observe, orient, decide, act. And then what do you do next?
Observe,
orient, decide, act. And then what do you do? Oh, you loop around.
But what's the first thing you do? Observe. Oh, so if you're sitting here saying, "Oh, I don't like you in general, so I'm not going to talk to you," even if you agree with the prescriptions that person is saying, what you're saying is, "Oh, well, I don't want to hear what you have to say because I don't like you." And then you miss good data. And if the church was willing to listen to what the red pill guys were saying about women, and look, I get it. When we come up and we say, "Oh yeah, 94% of women by the time they graduate high school have had sex," that tears at the hearts of Christians. I understand that. But do you honestly think you're going to be able to improve that number by walling off and saying, "Well, we're just not going to talk to you guys because you bring that up, because you brought up a prescription for dealing with that we don't like"? The fact that we bring up a prescription that you don't like, you're using it as an excuse to not wrestle with and grapple with this data.
Well, that kind of brings up this next point. A woman loves differently than a man.
That's what the data shows.
Because she's going to make her decisions based on a different perception, different emotions
Mm-hmm.
than a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what drives her decisions. And she, okay, a man loves by sacrifice, by
Yes.
hard work. It has a commitment. He gives his word. It has a morality. It's just completely different than what I have observed in women. And they're not going to love the same as a man.
Ooh, hey Steve, do
Yeah.
you think part of so we kept hearing this refrain from the Daily Wires and the I'll say his name, Tim Gordon's of the world. You just need to pray with her X number of hours a day, and that will solidify
Game
your
genie.
game genie. and,
Sorry, I couldn't
and,
help it.
no, it's fine, Nick. But it's and so what he's really trying to say is he's trying to say men and women are equal. Men and women love equally. They love the same way.
Well, it goes back to that philosophy in the Christian world, and I heard this a long time ago. If you view a triangle and man and woman are at the bottom of the triangle, and the apex of the triangle is God, as your relationship gets closer to God and her relationship gets closer to God, automatically the two of you travel up the legs of the triangle, and then the two of you actually get closer too, closer to each other.
I don't know, Nick. Did that work for you? Because it sure didn't work for me.
And no, I taught that. I lived it. It didn't work. Yeah, I repent of that. Well, look, ideally, sure, if she's actually growing closer to God and not according to the feminist usurpation of Christianity, it might work some. Some. Not entirely. It's more complicated than that, though.
Oh, you mean because women love differently than men do?
Yes.
Well,
That's an
then,
uncomfortable truth, but it's true.
Right.
go to Ephesians 5. It compares uh, us to God and or the church to God and as the husband to the wife. So the husband, in some way, is an intercessor or intermediary between the wife and God. There's a hierarchy here. The triangle doesn't acknowledge a hierarchy.
Right.
If she's obedient to her husband, she's following God's commandment, and that is what she's designed to do. So, by being obedient to her husband, and even without God consciously in her mind, she's still following the commandments, which is what God wants her to do. And that's a different model than the triangle model.
Right.
Well, go ahead, Nick.
Well, that's what kind of what I was trying to hint at. It's like it's a bit more complicated than that triangle model. There's a whole rebellion against the hierarchy there that the triangle does not address. And it's interesting, we're not supposed to talk about, disclosing the narrative today, but I'll give a historic example of the church just because we're kind of talking about it. So I did a bunch of research. I grabbed a bunch of quotes from the reformers and men of the Westminster Assembly in the 16th and 17th century. I studied that, and they exemplify a hierarchy, and they say a woman can profess to do all the prayers, go to church, be so saintly, but if she is not performing her wifely duties, she's not behaving like a woman, her Christianity is actually worthless, and she's really not one.
So she's not on at her side of the triangle.
Right.
You can't be. So
Well, isn't a woman's salvation come through childbearing?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, in a sense, I would say that's part of working out her salvation, fear and trembling, or sanctification, if you want to go there. That's a
But that's
Protestant,
in
more of a
Genesis,
Protestant
I think.
sense. Yeah, yeah,
So there's something about being faithful to her husband, being sexual with her husband, and becoming pregnant, giving birth, and doing her duty as a wife and mother that is sufficient for her sanctification. Is that the right word, Nick?
well, it's part of her sanctification. Guiding the home, loving, respecting her husband, loving her children. I think that's in Titus also.
Probably, yeah, I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But so
So
what but again, what we're saying here is that the and this triangle thing comes from the church, and the church teaches this kind of stuff. Okay, but you can go read the Bible, and the Bible doesn't even actually say that. So where did it come from? Oh, well, it probably came from, as Nick said, the feminist usurpation of the church. But the church can't see that because the church, and we've talked about this before in prior videos, the church is so infiltrated with feminism that it believes that these things are actual biblical truths. And the only people now who could come to the church and say, you're wrong, are people from the outside who've lived this. And if the church is going to respond by saying, no, we can't live with you because you gave a prescription we don't like, the church is literally kicking rocks at the truth. It's throwing stones at the truth.
Yeah, they
yeah,
forgot how to plunder the Egyptians.
well, let's pull the non-Christians back into this discussion.
Okay.
I think some of our audience is non-Christian. So we're talking
Fine.
about wisdom here in the Bible. It's not strictly Christian. Yeah, okay, it is. But okay, wisdom is wisdom. It applies everywhere. So let's go to this next thing. The third bullet point up there. A woman is adrift without a man's leadership. Okay, we just said the
Wait.
triangle model doesn't work. Well, it doesn't have a hierarchy. Well,
Oh.
gee, doesn't this kind of relate to the necessity of a hierarchy? The man's leadership. And she
Someone played
can't
that.
live without that. And well, she'll just
Mhm.
be adrift.
So, Steve, I
Irrational.
want to play devil's advocate. I want to play devil's
Okay.
advocate for a bit. I agree. We talked about this briefly. Yeah, she needs a hierarchy, and she's adrift without man's leadership. I agree. But how does that fit with how's a man supposed to have leadership if her behavior is beyond a man's control? Point one.
Oh, well, he's still required to lead, but that doesn't mean she's going to follow.
Okay.
I mean, that's a simple description. Okay, and again, I think I made this comment earlier. Not about certainty, it's about probability. If he
Okay.
doesn't try and lead and be an effective leader, his probabilities go down. But there's no guarantee that if he
Right.
leads well, that she's going to follow.
So she could rebel. She has agency to rebel.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that a problem? Do men want to some way contrive some reason to deny or rationalize that her agency really isn't independent? I mean, she can be dependent on him, but still have an independent mind to do because she has agency, right?
Right. Look, my wife, she's in the chat over here. He does not do everything I command her to do. we apparently we still need to have talk about a credit card every now and again. Um, but I have a tremendous amount of influence over her, and she is aware that there are limits to what she can get away with, and if she pushes too far, that those limits might come down and start hurting. It has happened before, so she knows I'll do it. And sometimes, guys, you're going to have to demonstrate that, hey, look, you're actually going to do the things you say you're going to do, which is what a dominant man is going to do. But if, go ahead.
This isn't so difficult to understand.
Oh,
We do it all the time. Okay,
Yep.
guess what? I have a boss.
So do I.
He is my leader. He tells me what I need to do. He gives me assignments. And generally I follow. Do I have to follow him? Do I have to do what he says? No, I got free will. Sometimes he says be there at a certain time. I think, I don't have to do that. I'll be there 15 minutes, 30 minutes later, and it's fine. And usually it is. So I'm not actually following to the letter.
Yep.
Hey,
But-
isn't this the same analogy? There's leadership, and then there's following the leadership. And I don't always do it perfectly, although I still acknowledge that he's the leader, and I can only have so much leeway there.
Well, and
I want to.
I was just going to say,
something.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I really don't like. I know how we're using leadership, but we gotta beware. A lot of these people, they want to take leadership and then rip it of all authority.
No. Yes, they do.
The servant leader.
No.
We don't mean
Steve.
that. We don't mean that. We mean a man who has, like he said, his boss. He has real authority, and
Yes.
yet Steve could rebel against his boss.
Yes.
Well, Steve, your boss has real authority, which also implies that your boss can give out consequences. Let's say you're late too many times and you're a trucker, so you cause a delay in a delivery, and you do that too many times. Are there going to be consequences for that?
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm a teamster. This is well described, and there's a disciplinary rules. Okay, whatever they vary company by company, but you might get a talking to. That might be the first one, and it's documented. Yeah, we talked to this guy. Then you get a written warning. And then you might get a second written warning. And maybe it means, yes, that second written warning, you get a day off without pay. And it keeps escalating. If you don't correct, it leads to termination because they're documenting all this stuff. So, yeah, there are consequences. But the hammer doesn't come down on day one. Just like men don't lower the hammer on a disobedient wife for the first transgression.
Oh. So there's some gray area here. There's some nuance here to how you might want to implement this stuff. Oh, interesting. So what I'm hearing is that in terms of observations, look, Steve, you were talking about the disciplinary model.
Sure.
Were you told that disciplinary model before you started? Was it in like a handbook, employee handbook, or something that you had to read as part of your training? Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, in the first, you start the job and you're learning all the stuff, and it's
Okay.
this pretty early on in your employment. Maybe not
Right.
day one, but yeah, in the first month, and the other guys say, yeah, okay, you better watch this because here's what can happen to you.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're aware of it. It's not hidden from you.
So the question that I'm asking here that I kind of want to take us down is observations have consequences.
Right.
Okay. If observations have consequences, then would it not logically make sense that if we don't observe something, we don't have to feel the consequence of it?
No, the tree still falls even if nobody's watching.
Oh. So what you're saying is that by pushing out the people talking about the data, the descriptions, is it possible that we're just really trying to not deal with the consequences?
Yeah, it sounds like the ostrich burying its head in the sand.
And then getting eaten anyway because the rest of its body is still above ground.
I think so.
Right. So this is kind of what we're getting at is when you say that the descriptions are not the problem, I say the prescriptions are derivative of the descriptions. You do not have a prescription without a description. And so by trying to say, well, this prescription is bad and this prescription over here is going to work better, if like I can agree with you that 50, trying to get 50 women is morally not a good idea. I can also make a purely logical argument that says your chances of baby mama drama and STD drama go way through the roof if you've had 50 women. There's a purely practical argument to be made against that. Okay. But if you come in and offer up an alternative prescription without acknowledging and understanding the implications, as Steve said, of what that data means, how can you know that your prescription is going to have either any effect at all, or it could even have a negative effect because you ignored the data?
So that's so like let's say you go to the physician and he collects only a little bit of he doesn't thoroughly examine the patient who's obviously having observable problems, and he prescribes you on an incomplete examination. He prescribes you a medication based on an incomplete examination. It could, potentially it could work on the off, could work, based on the little he observed, or it could kill you.
And in this particular example, there's a higher probability that it will kill you because that probability is directly proportional to how much data he took. The less data he takes, the higher the probability that what he prescribed is going to kill you.
Well, okay, I just came up with this analogy. The truth exists.
Mm-hmm.
The truth exists. So, the truth, we consider that as a descriptor. If a secular red pill degenerate man says a truth, a lot of times a Christian will say, well, he's wrong because he's a degenerate. So I don't have to believe that. Okay, that's one way to dismiss it. On the other side, Christians say, oh, well, this is a truth. It's illustrated in the Bible. The Bible says this, and it's kind of logically based. And the secular, degenerate, red pill guy will say, well, I don't have to follow that because I'm not Christian. So both of them are dismissing a descriptor, a truth, because they're, they have a problem with the descriptor. A lot of red pill guys have a problem with some truths that are in the Bible. They're just truths. And
Well,
if Christianity is true, it's going to contain truths, whether you like it or not, whether you actually believe in the whole Christian salvation story or not. The truths still exist.
a good chunk of the Bible is a history. I forget what the technical name is for that chunk of the Bible, but a good chunk of it is a history, and there is evidence beyond, just you can spend an entire lifetime studying the evidence that shows, oh yeah, these things really did happen when this book says they happened. Here's a fun one that I was reminded of that I knew years ago, and I was looking something else up, and it fell into my lap. So the day that Christ was crucified, there was darkness for 3 hours, right? Well,
Right.
on April 3rd of 33, Anno Domini, so basically 33, Christ was 30 years old. On April 3 of 33, our computer models are so accurate and so precise that we can play the Earth, moon, and sun backwards in time, and we discovered that there was, on April 3rd, 33, about the exact time that we still hold Easter today, a solar eclipse lasting 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, it's for the non-Christians out there, there's some actually fascinating, deeply mathematical evidence for the existence of Christ and the story that the Bible tells. So just so you know that that's out there, and I have a book on it. It's wildly fascinating stuff.
Okay.
But the point is, there's truth in the Bible.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Plutarch. Kind of related to this. Is the Bible a description of truth, or is it a prescription of how we should live our lives?
Is both an answer on my
There you go.
my multiple choice question here?
Yes,
False
of course
dilemma.
it is.
Right. So, like the Bible describes a specific cosmological event. We go back, we find the cosmological event. That is an observable truth. Okay, it's not, that is not a prescription. But considering what was happening during that observable truth, you're like, oh, okay, the Bible does tell, it does give you a moral guide to how to deal with these truths. So for the Bible, there has to be truths in there that the Bible says, okay, here's how we deal with these truths.
And some of the classical ethics, there's they can divide it up like law codes, but also some of ethics includes purpose or goals. So both Bible and I would say red pill as well. They're both moral. They can contain a morality or ethos or ethics.
Well,
Man, the next thing you're going to say, Nick, is red pill is moral and not amoral.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anything's amoral unless you're agnostic or atheist, and there is no ultimate truth and there's no ultimate morality. So everything is amoral from that worldview, which I think is self-contradictory.
So it sounds to me like seeking truth is a good moral thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And if seeking truth is a moral thing, then denying truth is
Immoral.
okay.
But there's also a purpose in gathering the data, which is to help men. Yeah, sometimes they may help men in a bad way, some ways in a good way. But if you reduce it to helping men, it's moral and morally good. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing, and this goes back to agency, is because, men have agency too. I can put a bunch of data in front of a man and I can say, and I can ask him, so what would you do with this? If he's a Christian, he might come up with one answer. If he's not, he's going to come up with a different one. But all men have some sort of moral framework governing their lives. It could be a framework of pure evil, like if you're Jeffrey Dahmer, okay. But all men have that. Whether we're willing to admit it or not is that's where we can get sticky. But y'all have it. So that's kind of my view on the morality of a thing is I might not agree with your morality, but I will fight you that you have one.
Well, it's the whole point is that a lot of them insist on using logic. That
Okay.
you why ought you to use logic? You're assuming a morality in regards to truth.
Right.
So,
And I love using logic. Like, when I say, 50 women, your chances of baby mama drama and STD drama go way up. Look, that's just pure extension of the data. 25% of college women have herpes. That's a stat from Aaron Clary's book. It's the Book of Numbers. 25%. Look, guys, you have 50 women. Your chances of getting that one go up to about 100% because 1 in 4 will have it. Okay.
But this 50 body thing, logically, if you do that, it will help you learn how to
Yes, it will
influence a woman in the attraction.
Oh, yes.
It will, you will gain skills in getting a woman.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, Solomon learned some wisdom the wrong way too.
But logically, getting 50 women probably doesn't get you any skills in keeping a woman because it's a different thing.
Okay. So what you're saying is that not all prescriptions are complete prescriptions. In fact, I don't think any prescription is a complete prescription. That's my view of it. When I don't use every red pill prescription, guys, with Elena. I don't do that. I didn't need to do that. And I still have a very red pill frame in the relationship. Just because somebody says, here is a thing you can do that will work, does not mean that you must go do that thing. Because the prescriptions are downstream of the descriptions.
Well, back to the OODA loop, you observe, you orient, decide, and act. Well, because you're observing and then you're orienting yourself, put it in perspective, then you decide. So your actions is based on your observation, and each observation is uniquely different. So that doesn't mean you just do things by rote. Doesn't mean you punch the buttons on the keypad the same way every time because you want that result. No, you have to actually think and observe.
Steve, are you telling me that women aren't programmable sex bots?
Yeah, I guess that's my experience.
I can't just open up
Wednesdays, guys. That's Wednesday, guys.
Wednesdays.
So let's move on to this next one, and I'll segue into it. A woman's mind operates and perceives substantially different than a man's mind.
Oh, you just destroyed first wave feminism.
Okay, yeah, but let's start with the Bible. Does the Bible treat men and women differently? Does the Bible have some red pill truths about women and what men need to be wary of and how men should act? And is that different than how women should act?
In some places, yeah. Somewhat,
okay.
yeah.
So I'll take that for a yes. In the red pill, do we talk a lot about this, about how a woman's mind operates and perceives differently than a man?
Oh, some people would say the red pill's obsessed with that because that's all of game is trying to work that.
Okay. But even though we gave mental agreement to that, in reality, in the modern church, men and women are perceived as spiritually equal ability to pray and be spiritual and all this. And they're the same because there's no Greek or Jew or man or woman or whatever in Christ. So we're all the same. And so we dismiss all those differences. And the
I
red
got a
pill
chapter on that in my book, by the way.
on the red pill side, yeah, we know this, but we still struggle with it. Which leads us into the last point. Why don't you lead us in that one, Nick?
No, no amount of logic, able to sway a woman's belief, which is based on her feelings. Ooh.
I mean, okay. I love watching Homath's videos. I really do. Because he does fantastic audiovisual presentations of the descriptions. He really does. He's not big on prescriptions, but he does fantastic descriptions. And yet, because of that, you think it leads you into this path of thinking that, well, all I have to do is X, Y, and Z, then outcome will be A, B, C.
The game genie. Get put in the right codes.
Yes, we're programming computers here.
I have a real life example of this. And it involves Elena.
Uh-oh.
So I think it was on one of our Saturday streams. We were talking about the delusion calculator. She thought, oh, that's a terrible thing. And I thought, hey, this is a great thing. Because, punch in the equations and, and if you put me in there, we'll just assume I'm just for the sake of argument. Okay, I'm 6 foot. I make okay money. I'm pretty intelligent. I'm not super fat, but I'm not fit. And, oh, punch me in there. And yeah, I'm probably 80% man based on those criteria, which means 20% of men are better than me. And Elena says, oh, that's terrible because I'm thinking, hey, that's pretty good. Out of 5 men, I'm like one of the top guys. You pick 5 men, I'm one of the top guys. Whereas the woman looks at that and says, oh, damn, I settled for this guy, but 20% of the men are better than him, so I could have done better.
Yep.
It didn't dawn on me that a woman would look at the raw statistics and say, damn, oh shit, that's encouraging women to not settle for this guy. When fuck, you've got one of the best men out there, theoretically. And I'm paraphrasing. I'm not trying to put myself up and actually make it realistic. Okay, guys?
So
Well, but-
invest in kitty litter and box wine because
Well, one of my favorite long-term stocks is Chewy, by the way, guys. Just saying. They're going to be around forever. No stock advice is intended or implied. Sorry, it's just I have to say that.
it's a joke. It's a joke.
Yes, total joke. However, Elena does actually understand that there are limits to what a woman can get out of, for a guy. It's like you find out she understands that, oh, I got a top 10 or a top 5% guy, he does well, okay. She understands that, she's good with that. But also remember, she's not from our culture. And
No,
and
and,
even then
and
she
she
still
was,
thought that.
well, she was putting herself into the minds of other women
Mm-hmm.
and kind of channeling their perception of this. So I'm not throwing her under the bus here. But
My point is that she could do that. She's not of our culture. Eastern culture, Eastern thought, very, very different than Western culture and Western thought. And she slid right into those shoes as if she'd been wearing them for decades, because she's still a woman. And it's, again, I'm trying to say, okay, that's a description. Women think like that.
You can't convince them logically to sleep with you. Also, women do think like that. Like you see, like on the whatever podcast and all these things, they rate themselves, right?
Yep.
Based on what?
their feelings and how they want to see themselves.
Everyone, they're a 10 because they feel that's true.
Right. Objectively not true, but they feel that way. And look, Homath has a great explanation of why they do it and all that. All that logic he put into it, it's still not going to stop them from saying it, because frankly, they don't care. And guys, you've got to accept that women don't care about your logic. They don't care about the stats, because they're special, unique unicorns.
She's a unicorn,
Oh.
and there's a man out there ideally perfect for her. And if her criteria is such that that's one man in 1,000, that means he's out there. And so she's entitled to that. So why should she settle for less?
Right. So women don't care about, your logic of stats and math. Get away from me with that. Nothing is going to make a woman drier in the Sahara Desert than you trying to bring stats into this. So don't. It ain't worth it. And so,
Yeah,
well, part of the problem is we can have all the observations in the world. It isn't going to help you with women in terms of telling women how to behave. It can help you men. This is why we say help men. We're not here trying to help women. Women have it pretty damn good right now anyway. We are here to try and help men. And we can use stats to say, okay, if we come and say, 94% of women will have sex before they graduate high school. Okay, what does that tell you men? And look, if you're a man out there and you go, yeah, okay, fine, I'm just going to go have, unrestricted sex because I'm depressed about that stat and I don't like it. I go, okay, well, here's some more stats. 25% of women in college have herpes. Okay, now what does that say? So, guys, you have to have as complete picture of the information available as possible. And when you start trying to say, oh, well, we don't want to talk to that guy because we don't like his prescription for how to deal with that information. Okay, but you don't know what information he used to arrive at that conclusion. And if you don't know that information, you can't come up with a better solution than him.
well,
Because
he's using logic. If 95% of women are not virgins by the time they graduate high school or whatever, that means that, gee, most of them are willing. And I got a chance with all of them. I just push the right buttons. I can get one of those women. I don't know if I can keep them, but logically, yeah, gee, I can live that. I can be a successful promiscuous man.
Well,
right?
when I was dating, I had the opportunity to do exactly that a couple of times. I don't actually want to say the number, of opportunities I had to do that. I didn't take them. But they were, yes, they were there. The logic is that straight line logic is true. So why didn't I take them? Well, in
You
one
don't
case,
have to.
well, right.
You have a moral reason not to, or
I did.
maybe not just a moral reason, also also a logical reason as well.
In one case, she was so BPD, it was kind of painfully obvious. But in other cases, no. In one of the cases, she would have been a perfectly fine example in many respects. I only ever dated Christians, or at least people, or at least girls who said that they were Christian.
Well, I had a similar thing with a woman who was an acquaintance, kind of a friend. Yeah, it was there, ready for me.
Mm-hmm.
Completely, totally, absolutely. Yep, yep. She was actually disappointed, but I chose not to because I really wanted her more of as a friend, and our friendship continued after that. And we were actually, I just wanted her more as a friend than as a sexual conquest. So even, okay, was it my Christianity? Yeah, maybe partially. But there was actually a logical reason not to do it as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in my case, I had the opportunities. A number of them were quote unquote good Christian girls who they were throwing themselves. And there was an aspect there that I was like, okay, but you claim this Christianity thing, but you're throwing yourself at me. What else are you going to compromise on when it suits you? And what stopped me from taking advantage of it was that ability to go back, see the data through the hormones. Because, guys, I was a lot younger when this happened. The hormones were still there and still raging. But I still had the presence of mind to look through to see what these women were actually doing with their actions and say, oh, well, but this would then mean that you're actually not what you say you are. And if you're not what you say you are, you're lying to either me or yourself about who you are on some level. And that means that you're willing to lie in a relationship. Okay. But it was that willingness to be open, to eyes open to the data coming at me, to what she was saying and doing with what she was saying. You put the two together. The prescription would say, bang the hoe and then dump her when you're done.
Sure.
Okay. And that is an option I could have taken. I chose not to because I wasn't looking for that. I never had an interest. Had the opportunities, never had the interest. And I want to make it very clear because a lot of guys are going to come and say, oh, well, you never had the interest because you never really had the opportunities. No. If a girl is willing to think that way, the chances of her having an STD are much higher because I can guarantee you're not her first. Also, there were a couple of these girls who I was dead sure would not have been on birth control and would have played games with it. And I would have ended up with baby mama drama that I did not want at that time, period. End of discussion. I wanted nothing to do with that. And so, but those things were sitting in the back of my head that caused me to come out of the hormone haze and say, there's a problem here that could get me in trouble with these things I really, 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 really don't want. And if you can't do that, if you're sitting there saying, and this goes to the I'm kind of talking to the 50 body side of the argument right now. Are you really actually looking at the full picture? Are you really looking at all the data? Because that data came from Cappy's book about the STD thing. Like, that's in the red pill that's right there sitting in front of you, and y'all are still saying, oh yeah, you just have sex with a lot of women.
So, Plutarch, are you saying you thought about the hormones, but you didn't get to hear the hormone?
uh, mm, that is
I couldn't
all
resist.
that is almost 100% correct. There is one story in there that is not fit for public print.
Yeah, so like the red pill, there is a danger. Actually, there you want to help men, but also know what you're getting into. There can be a danger, if you're a Christian guy, you could put yourself in danger. So you have to act wisely with what you're doing. So like last week, I was at you guys saw the text message I sent you.
We did.
Oh yeah. So they've seen it. Think, oh, these guys, Christian guys, red pill. They have no game. No, I was just going about. I was out with my friend. We do our karaoke night, and I was going to leave the next morning, and I did. And I'm just sitting there, and with my friend, we're having a good time, and this there's one girl. I told her to basically buzz off. She's young, and there's another. And that's when you have a text with, she wanted more. Yeah, I had fun. I flirted, but it was a no-go. And you saw it in the text that she was mad or
Oh yeah.
upset that she went home alone.
Oh yeah. Well, that goes back to what we've been hammering on. Just because a prescription is offered does not make the prescription a requirement. And I do think that particularly the Daily Wire Christ pill guys do believe that because it's almost like they have this fear that because of like even offering the prescription to men is going to cause the man to immediately fall into sin and do that, as if the man has no control over his little head.
Right.
And
You
I
have
don't know.
agency.
Yeah, and
Everyone has agency. You
I
still
don't
make your
know.
decisions, but have wisdom.
I don't know if that's why they're doing it, but when I talk to Christians in general, that appears to be the belief about the red pill. Oh no, if I tell them that if I tell them this data, then they might decide to do something with it that I don't approve of. You're right, they might.
Right. But it also gives you red flags to avoid.
Sure.
So it gives you also wisdom on avoiding women.
Yeah, we did it's actually our most popular video, vetting church ladies.
Oh.
Is specifically how to deal with this.
So there's descriptors and then there's what you do with it.
And this is an interesting point. The vetting church ladies. Did we talk too much about what to do about those church ladies? I don't think we did. I think we did a whole lot of descriptors.
Yeah. In the end, you make your choice, but you know what? You ought to look out for these things because it could potentially cause you some trouble.
But what do we have to do first? We have to observe first. Observation always comes first. If you are denying the observation, if you are, throwing the proverbial baby out with the bathwater, you're not seeing the things you can't observe the things to be on the lookout for. In order to use our vetting church ladies video, first you have to be observing women. And you know what you're going to see when you observe women? An awful lot of promiscuity, whoredom, poor decision making, no logic, pretty much everything that we've been talking about tonight in how women behave. You're going to see all of it. And you know what else you're going to see? You're going to see that, those guys, she opens her legs for those guys. That is the real core of the problem of the observations, is that a guy can come to a conclusion that we don't like.
Well, is the problem on the Christian side that the men think not all women are like that, when the reality is pretty much all women are like that.
Oh,
You know,
see, that's the problem. They're not sugar, spice, and everything nice that you think that they're gonna be. They're
Nick,
they're broken, sinful human beings like everyone else.
I'm going to say this, but not all women are like that. When Christians say it, is an attempt to deny that God made women the way they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, so what I'm actually really kind of saying for the Christians out there, when you say not all women are like that, you're denying God's creation. The Bible has some pretty strong things to say about people who do that.
Well, okay, I'm going to say something scandalous here.
Go for it.
Since all women are kind of like that, if you don't in some way treat your woman as a wanton woman, the object of your pleasure, for lack of a better word, like your personal what? She kind of wants to feel that. She'll go do it. Women have that desire. So if the man, the husband, is not kind of fulfilling that in his wife in an exclusive relationship, maybe she's has a tendency to seek that kind of liaison or pleasure or feeling elsewhere. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, on my personal experience.
Yeah.
But that's a bitter pill for the church to swallow. That is a deep bitter pill that they, and that's yet another observation that they do not want to touch. That women can they have slutty minds? I mean, as if it wasn't as if it wasn't obvious from all the softcore porn they read in their romance novels, I guess. Or my personal favorite, the meme of the moms, screaming for, what was it, Robert Pattinson in Twilight, and underneath, of course, it says if this was 40-year-old men screaming for teenage women, the cops would be called, right? You know, we don't. The church does not want to talk about that. The church, to the point where the church not just won't observe it, they refuse to observe it.
Hey, I heard a Catholic priest give a series on marriage, and he said, "Yeah, a woman's desire heats up like a toaster oven, but a man heats up like a microwave oven."
Okay.
Meaning,
Yeah.
okay, it's gonna take her a while. You gotta
Yeah.
work on getting her in the mood
Okay.
because it takes her longer to get in the mood. Yeah, Nick, that story you just related, was she raring to go
Oh man.
from just like that?
She
So
dragged
two
my stool
women.
over next to her. I was trying to stand by myself.
That is a cultural trope, and I'm not even sure where it came from. Probably out of the Victorian era. Um, this idea that women are slow to lust. By the way, bullshit. Uh, speaking from experience, that's why I was kind of cringing over here. Uh, no, women when they're in the mood, it's no different than men. However, what we can observe, the red pill does observe, is that the things that get women in the mood are very different than for guys.
Okay, I have a theory on where that comes from. Okay, and this relates to that last point. No amount of logic will will be able to sway a woman's belief, which is based on her feelings. So you're in a marriage. Things start, it's not great. I mean, the sex is kind of dried up. So
Fishing. Yeah.
the average man, I did this many times, and Nick and I talked about it, and Plutarch will probably admit to this too. Okay, it's not going good. I'm going to use my logic to try and solve this problem.
Guilty.
And
Yes.
explain it to her, and then surely she'll understand. She doesn't.
No.
Oh,
Nope.
see, so okay, Uda, okay. I gotta
didn't
go
work.
back. I gotta loop around. I need better logic. Because surely if I get airtight logic, I can convince her to change her ways, and then I can get sex. So you try and use more logic. Oh,
Nope.
fuck. That didn't.
Nope.
It's like worse.
Okay. Gee. Maybe I'm not. Oh, yeah. I have to feel her heart. I have to be more compassionate, understand her emotions, be more understanding, be more loving. So you try that. Oh, yes. I'm just ready to go.
You can
I want
try
to do
it.
it now. But
Try
no,
play,
I
try
gotta
play.
warm her up first. Maybe to put her in the mood, maybe I should draw a bath for her.
Oh
Sprinkle some
God, no.
roses on that, and then light some candles and say, "Oh, honey, why don't you take a bath?" As if she doesn't know what the fuck you want. That's not gonna work.
You're trying to lawyer her into having sex with you. Oh my goodness.
No, but the Bible says. The Bible says, guys.
So, okay, men,
Doesn't
yeah,
work either.
all of us do it. Maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe I'm not.
Oh, there's guys out there who have done all of what you just said.
I know, but pretty much every guy tries this.
Yep.
We try to logic her into a wife into having sex. No, I guess she's just slower to warm up. She's like a toaster oven. I gotta, maybe I give her a card in the morning and, bake breakfast for her. And maybe by tonight she'll be ready. Okay. That's the belief that a woman takes warming up to get in the mood. But it's bullshit. And everything that a man does to logic his way into sex just doesn't work, does it, Nick?
No.
So the problem with that people miss with the OODA loop is they don't realize they're kind of missing the orient step here. And part of orienting is observe and orient is understand when what you're doing isn't working and it's time to try something else. And I think this is actually what the married red pill was really good at, was like, you know what? We tried the logic. We tried the warming her up like a toaster oven. Both of those failed miserably. We need to be seeking, and those were the things that we were told would work by our pastors, by our women around us. The women will tell you this stuff works. It's a lie. It's a straight up lie. Okay. And so the guys got together and they started observing and they started collecting more data and they started looking at what worked. Now, the married red pill guys were not here trying to become pickup artists, banging lots of women. Right. They were married. They were trying to save their marriages.
Oh, so the red pill's not just about promiscuity?
I would say the bulk of the red pill is not about promiscuity.
Man, you just destroyed that narrative, man.
I enjoy that. It's fun.
Too bad. You're talking about bad data here. Too bad we don't have someone who has some experience in programming. Because I've heard this thing, GIGO.
Garbage in, garbage out.
That stands for? Yeah, that's it.
I ran over you too
Very
fast
good.
because it's my life. But
Yeah,
yes,
I threw you that softball pitch and you just couldn't wait to swing at it,
no.
could you?
Well, but here's the thing. Everyone out there who's trying to say that they don't like our, oh, well, we just don't like these prescriptions. The prescriptions that they do offer up completely ignore the data. You are not going to pray your wife into fucking you. You're not going to logic her into fucking you. You're not going to you know, bathtub hurt your way into. And so all of those, any solution, and we have countless hours of data on, like, thousands of hours have been spent adducing this data, to use a legal term, into the court of the red pill. And we have discovered that none of that works. Here's what does work. And a lot, like the Daily Wire guys, their view on game is that, oh, well, that's just pickup artist stuff and it's manipulative of women, and how dare these men, try, manipulate, because all, and then they say, well, because they're just doing it for sex. No, most guys are not doing it just for sex. Most guys only want the one woman. Most guys are really looking to get married and settled down. And so we come in and we say, okay, well, here's how you talk to women. Here's how you know, think about them, and here's some things that work, and here's a lot of things that don't work, and we tried them all. And when the Daily Wire guys come in and they say, well, they're just doing this stuff to get sex, they're trying to say that the data is wrong because the prescription is immoral.
Yeah, logical fallacy. Yeah.
It's a composition
I mean,
fallacy, I believe.
At this point, we can actually circle back to the beginning of this list.
I know,
The
right?
problem is a woman's behavior is beyond a man's control. He can influence, he can increase probabilities, but there's no guarantees. A man has to lead his own life and have his own purpose that doesn't revolve around her. He has to be a leader. She operates differently than he does. You can't logic her into anything. So, gee, you can just keep circling through this list, and a man should.
Yes.
Because you know what? I keep needing reminders of this because I
So do I.
forget. And I keep going back to, well, gee, just let me present a better argument. More logic. I mean, we all fall into that,
Yeah,
right?
we do.
We do. But Steve, let me ask, are you an engineer by chance?
Unfortunately, yes. And that's caused me great difficulties in life.
Same here. What's interesting, though, you said, a man has to lead his own life. And I can tell you right now that Elena does not always like that when I do it. And she will tell you that some days she wishes that I wasn't doing that. But her actions say otherwise. So she doesn't, quote unquote, like the fact that I spend so much time working. But apparently she respects it quite a bit. Okay. And I'm off doing my thing. I've got my program, I've got my projects, I've actually got more than one going on. We have missions that we agree on, all of that. And she's helping. Some days she doesn't think she's helping. That's the whole thing. Guys, you do have to tend to the emotional life of your women. You do have to be aware of it, but don't let it dominate your life.
Well, you also, I mean, Elena has her YouTube channel. It does her thing with the yoga and the piano and other things. And then she has her streams on Saturdays with Nick or I, or if Nick's unavailable, just with me. Well, we tease her that, and you kind of that, yeah, you love that because she gets to use up so many words. She has a lot of passion. And you found a couple guys. Well, okay, we live far, far away, so that makes us safe. But you also kind of trust us to interact with your wife and not
From
be
1,000
putting
miles away.
moves on her. So, okay, I mean, you have to have some ability to allow your wife to do to express herself and not think that her life needs to totally revolve around you. So
Well,
it means a different thing to different people, and I'm not telling anybody else how they should do things, but it works for you, so that's great. And I enjoy her friendship.
The thing that I want to make clear, it goes back to point number one. You will never be able to control women, and by control, I really mean tyranny.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. They attempting to enforce that level of control on a woman is actually going to lead to rebellion. Cheating women there's a lot of cheating women cheat because they feel like they're being. It's the reason the feminist argument works so well, because the feminist argument says you're being oppressed, you're being, which is another term for tyranny. You're being oppressed by your men, and women don't like that. And really, any person with agency wouldn't like that. And so they get all in their emotions thinking that normal human behavior, normal human leadership, normal masculine dominance has become this hyper oppressive tyranny. And that's, that's a whole problem for feminism for a different day. But the other thing I would say, guys, is do not count on your women to do the OODA loop. Don't.
No.
And this is another mistake that I see the church making, particularly guys like Michael Knowles, who basically is just a simp for his wife. He honestly believes that she is there, and women do not look for facts, period. They look for feelings. And I will ask Elena, if I need to know, what's the feelings going on behind that person? What do you see going on? And she will give me the download. Okay. But when it comes to facts, she tends to ask me, okay, what does this mean? What is that? Like, don't expect your women to do this. And
let me tell you, why is this list that's still on the screen, why is it accurate? Because I've made every one of these errors, every single one.
So have I.
That's how
Nick?
I know.
Solomon, some wisdom of Solomon there, learned through experience.
Yeah, and as guys, that's the other thing I would tell, have a little grace with guys. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn. And here's the other problem with dismissing men because you don't like a prescription. You're throwing away a chance to learn, but you're also throwing away a chance to influence them. It is so important for Michael Knowles to be seen spewing pure Christian language that he can't work with Rollo, because that's who Rollo's not wrong when he says, say my name about those guys. That is who they're referring to. They are missing a chance to influence him.
Well, guys like Michael Knowles will also dismiss me because I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Been married twice. and divorced twice.
Probably would
Therefore, I'm a
dismiss me too.
failure at marriage. And because I'm a failure, you can dismiss everything that I say because I'm not successful. Well, okay, well, on the other hand, I have experience with two nasty divorces, two women who were different, who
hmm
were motivated differently, who had different reasons for doing what they've done, but yet they kind of acted similarly. So, personally, I've learned things from that, and I'm bringing forth that knowledge to hopefully help other people. But you know what? You can dismiss what I say if you want, because after all, I am a failure at marriage.
What's the old saying? It's better to learn from the mistakes of others than to pay the cost of learning from the mistakes yourself. And what Michael Knowles has done is denied men the opportunity to learn from the mistakes of other men. And I had a thought while you were talking, Steve.
Okay.
And I think that Michael Knowles does what he does because he's afraid. And
Probably. Yeah.
not just afraid of men discovering the truth and deciding to go another way. He's afraid of what, because I'm thinking back to that interview with Pearl. He's afraid of what happens. He's afraid of what it means if those observations are true. What it means for him.
Yes. Yep.
And I
So the
think
problem is not really the prescriptions.
Oh,
I don't think it ever
because
has been.
because here's the big thing. You believe these things. Back to it's out of your control. It's out of the man's control. Man, that is scary. It's out of my
Absolutely.
control. And you know what? I can still do most of the right things. None of us ever do all of the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, the fact that I'm twice divorced, is that my fault? Maybe, maybe not, because both my ex-wives had agency. And so it's so scary to think that a woman has agency, and that means you're really not secure. That's a
Yep.
scary thought to a lot of men.
Which I think on
The old order's dead, guys. Like,
that, yes, it is.
we don't live 100 years ago or 150 years ago where there are consequences for people abandoning, cheating, and leaving marriage.
Well,
Divorce.
Steve, I think this fear thing applies to the red pill guys too. Because when a guy comes in and he says, "Oh well, all I have to do is logic her, all I have to do is sweet talk her," what he's really trying to do is he's trying to say that I can exert total control over this person so that I don't have to be afraid of them leaving. That
Yeah, all I have to do is perfect my game, and then hey,
and then
I'm
she won't
golden.
leave. Right.
Yeah.
And so when and I think that's where this idea that it's that, and I think that drives men to this place where, like, I think every man, both in the red pill and in the Christian space, would acknowledge that women have agency if you just ask them.
Yeah,
I think they would.
they would. They would.
But
Well,
when
intellectually, yes.
right, but when you start looking at how they talk and how they about these problems and the actions that they choose to take as a result of these observations, they're afraid. And I think a lot of the people that deny women have agency are afraid. I think particularly the people that try to say that the red pill is degenerate and immoral are terrified of the implications of some of what the red pill has to say. Look, it is terrifying to hear that 94% of women graduating high school have had sex. That is a terrible thing to have to say. And what you have really done both to the red pill. I'm going to say this both to the Christian and the red pill. What you have done by trying to discount these things by denying the prescriptions is you're actually demonstrating your own weakness, your own fear, your own lack of frame.
They deny the prescriptions or the descriptions?
Both.
Oh. So some of the prescriptions I would say are actually good.
Well, I guess what I'm really trying to say is the prescriptions are derivative of the descriptions. So
Okay.
we cannot talk if a prescription is bad. Like, notice how Michael Knowles never actually names one of the descriptions.
Okay.
Never names them. He knows what they are, or Jeremy Boring, I think it was one of the two. He said, "Well, I agree with 95% of them." Well, okay, I'd be curious to hear what the 5% you disagree with are. But he won't name them. He will not name them. Okay. If you're not willing to name it, you're not willing to talk about it. So your prescriptions don't matter.
That's like a new sophistry, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So, but the point that I'm really trying to get at too is men who cannot handle. Oh, okay. If you can't handle a prescription that's derived from a description, how weak are
Okay.
you? Because we're talking about the derivative of an observation.
Right.
Like, Nick, you've been very clear. It's this. You're very clear. This is from a biblical perspective. This is very easy. Just don't do that. Why do we have to spend so much energy on, well, the red pill is immoral because of this and that? So don't do that. Right?
Right. Right.
Okay.
Don't do it.
Okay. So that's
Do
the
what
answer for the
Bible says.
prescription.
Okay.
That's
So
the answer for the
yes.
prescriptions.
I think until the three of us explored this topic, it was just thrown out there like, and it was a belief. Oh, yeah, the descriptions are not the problem. It's the prescriptions. And everybody just says, yep, I agree. Yep. Nobody talked about it. Nobody actually went back to see, gee, what are the implications of the descriptions from a man's mind, and why might he have a problem with that from either the Christian side or the secular red pill side? That's what we're trying to explore here. So, you know what? Again, we've said this many times. You can disagree with us. That's great. That's fine. But
please do.
Think about it. Think your way through this, because probably something in here applies to you, and you can learn from that. And if you're a really a masculine man, you're not afraid to examine your own thoughts and change them. If it's warranted. If it's not warranted,
Right.
Hey, carry on.
Yeah. Well, Colonel, you're right. Most people who are speaking this stuff are afraid of men staring into that abyss and seeing and the abyss staring back at them. You know, for Michael Knowles, yes, he's terrified that men are going to see the red pill. I think for the red pill guys, they're terrified that they're going to see that they're insufficient. And Steve, I think the ready willingness to agree with the prescriptions of the problem is so that we don't have to go through the pain and hard work of actually examining the descriptions and their implications. It's easier to just foist it and say, "Oh yeah, you're right. The prescriptions are the problem." So I don't know. My final thought is we've taken a long time to get here, but what we're really talking about is the deep fear that men carry of not being in control. That applies to the red pill guys and it applies to the Christians. In my opinion, the red pill guys have been through a little more shit. They're a little more willing to grapple with this stuff. The Christian guys, when you bring this stuff up, they run from that light like it's going to kill them.
I agree.
Yeah. Hey, Fantasyland's better sometimes.
Mm, you
Well, like
know?
they love the blue pill. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so, it's like if
Instead of
Christian,
reality. Instead of reality and the truth. That's the sad part.
right. And so if the Christians come at us and say, well, why do you work with those immoral, degenerate red pill guys? Well, the answer is very simple. You're too afraid to be able to work with us at all. They're at least willing to try. They might not agree with everything. They might not like some of what we have to say, but they will try.
Eventually, yeah. They don't necessarily like that we bring this up, but yeah, they do pay. I think the red pill guys do pay attention to what we say. And some of our ideas kind of percolate out and they discuss them within some of our ideas
Good.
within a week or so of when we bring them out. And they are, and that says they are thinking about them, which, hey, I have great respect for them because of it. They are tangling with these things.
I haven't seen the church tangle with it yet.
They some of them have tangled with it a little bit with the 21 stuff,
Oh, okay.
and then they dismiss it as a bunch of degenerates and PUAs.
That's that yeah. It's
And
that breezy dismissal that
yeah,
guys, when we talk to red pill guys, could be offline, could be, talking to the camera, they're willing to give us the time of day. They're willing to ask us questions, engage with it. I have not had outside of my own family who's had to watch me go through some of these horrors. I haven't found people willing to even tangle with this grapple. They're not
Well,
willing to.
yeah, I mean, we have some contact with some bigger red pill names. Not, I'm
Not
not saying
much.
a huge, but there's some. We
right.
have zero content or contact with any big name Christian people. Zero.
And they refuse to talk to us. And what I think is interesting is that it is the Christians who react violently more to us than the red pill guys do. That to me is kind of like, you're a Christian, you're out here and you are going. I find it interesting that the Christians that we have talked to treat us as Michael Knowles treats us. Well, I will never say their names because they said something I don't like. Insert whatever it is. Thank you for demonstrating your weak ass beta lack of frame. Real men do not behave that way. Real men do not run from a fucking fight. If you think your ideas are so much better, bring it on.
Yeah.
We'll be happy. And you know what? Here's the other cool thing. The three of us are willing to be convinced we're wrong. Now, I'm going to temper that. The three of us have spent a lot of time discussing this amongst ourselves. We are fairly confident of the truth of what we're saying here. I'm not going to say perfectly. We're not perfect, but we run a lot of our stuff through Nick, and he will tear it down for us on the religious and moral grounds. We run it through Steve, and Steve's got all the wisdom and history of the red pill, and
Yeah,
me
right.
with well, not all of it, but he's been around for a long time, and me with
Old
my
man
obsession.
wisdom.
Yeah, old man wisdom over there, and me with my obsession with data. Okay,
Yes.
it doesn't mean
Well,
we're going to get everything right, but this is how we work, and so
we
you're going to have to
float.
take
We
a
float
lot of convincing.
ideas
Yeah,
amongst ourselves. it's a half-baked idea when it first comes out, and we
Yep.
see if the other guy will take it, turn it around, and say, "Whoa, it might be this, might be that," and then we kind of flesh out the concept, and so they're kind of a little bit tested by the time we bring them up with you guys.
Right. It's like, that's why we say we welcome outside opinions, because it is just the three of us. We want people to come at us and challenge us, because that's how we get better ideas. That's how we get better descriptions. That's how we get more accurate descriptions. But don't just assume you can walk in, quote a Bible verse if you're Christian, or if you're secular, just say a few words and we're just going to bow down at your knees and say, "Oh yes, you're right." No. If you want the fight, expect the fight, because the three of us have hashed out to some degree behind the scenes before we ever bring it to you guys, as Steve said. And
Sometimes it's heated. Then
yeah,
Yeah, it hasn't gotten bloody yet, though.
no.
no, I don't. I think we're too philosophical about stuff for it to get truly bloody. But
Hey, but we're kind of just regular guys, and if we didn't get pushback from our close friends, it wouldn't be any fun.
Absolutely.
No, it'd be boring.
Who wants boring?
Not women.
No, they really don't. So yeah, guys, if you're out here saying, "Oh, you won't talk to us because we said something you didn't like," you are the part of the problem. You cannot be part of the solution if you're just sitting here cutting people off that you don't like. Because you are denying yourself access to data, you're denying yourself access to analysis. Look, we have to put things in front of other men and really wrestle with them and bring in, okay, but I've got data, and Steve's got, or wisdom, and Nick's got. That's why it works. And if you start cutting that off, if you're a Christian out there saying, "Oh no, I can't talk to you because you're a degenerate," also understand you're not doing God's work per the Bible. You're supposed to be out here talking to the degenerates. You can't influence somebody you refuse to talk to. So for you Christians out there, I don't see any way you can say that what you're doing is in any way biblical by just throwing up this purity test of they're degenerate, so I don't have to talk to them. I don't know, Nick, you can stop me if I step over a line here, but
No, I'm fine.
okay. This is my personal views, but I do invite Nick to stop
Yeah.
me if I.
You have to live in the world. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have to be of it, of its
Right.
lust and all that stuff. So yeah.
We're not saying that you have to become degenerate. We're not saying that. In fact, I would say that's probably a bad idea.
Oh, okay. Elena says, "What if degenerates don't want to talk to you?"
Well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Where did Jesus go to find his disciples? He went among the common men, kind of the rough men. These were not cultured people.
Mhm.
Yeah, he didn't hang out with the hoity-toity group,
The Pharisees and the
or
Sadducees.
the highly religious people, or the rich people. Although there were some rich people that gave him money.
Yep.
He kind of hung out with somewhat of a rough crowd, and that's where his message was accepted. So, in a lot of ways, what Plutarch has been saying, yeah, our message is actually better received among many non-Christians.
Yeah,
than it is among Christians.
that's true. They're willing to talk to us.
Except for the few Christians that are already red pilled.
Well, yes, those guys are cool,
Yeah.
but they are more willing to look at the data. Apostle fisherman trait. Yeah, exactly. The apostles were not Pharisees and Sadducees, guys. Well, Paul was what, a tent maker?
He was a Pharisee of the Pharisees. Yeah, Paul was, but he was none of the original 12. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry. I my
Yeah,
my
he
I
was definitely he was under Gamaliel and everything. I mean, yeah, he was
okay. Earlier on. Well, but
Yeah.
what's interesting is he stopped being one
yeah.
and joined the rough. That must be terrifying for Christians too, particularly the theologically minded ones. You mean that I might have to get a little down and I might have to get my fingernails dirty to go talk to those people?
Of course, to the Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Paul is always pictured as the 12th apostle. In the Christian church, or Catholic church, excuse me, I didn't mean that. It was Judas, but then he was replaced by Matthias. But in the Orthodox Church, they put Paul in that place, which I don't think is wrong or inappropriate. I don't know quite the history of that, but
Eh,
in their iconography, that's what they do.
well, I think the point here is that if you're not willing to get down in the mud and all you're doing is saying, well, I'm too pure to touch those people. You are not fulfilling anything that I've ever read about what the Bible says and to how to interact with the world.
And look, so and some of those guys, they might take the suppository
Oh yeah.
after it happens to them.
I mean, look,
Because
look,
hey, the woman they're married to has agency, and she could flip on them in a second.
look, here's the deal. Michael Knowles. I know we've said your name a lot tonight. Um, if you're forced to take the suppository, we will be here to welcome you with open arms and plenty of descriptions that you don't like that explain why she did what she did.
And we hope it doesn't happen.
We hope it doesn't happen.
I don't wish calamity upon any man.
Me either.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying that if it does, we will be here for you, despite everything you've done and said. We will be here with you for you with open arms, a kind word, and then we're going to start saying, well, here's some things you might have that you were so busy not looking at before that might matter to that might explain some things.
Well, we've gone almost 2 hours, so I think we're rambling.
No, we are a little bit. I want to keep hammering on this idea though that if you're out here denying and pushing away the truth, and people who they might come up with a description you don't or a prescription you don't like, do not ever ignore the descriptions that they're saying, and please come to us, come to anybody in the space, ask to have a conversation, and you know what, you might learn something, and learning is always good. So, but this whole fear of I might be sullied, that's just your fear and lack of frame talking. And oh no, okay, I have to put this up. Okay, Shu, we'll have to go dig that one up. For the listening audience, it says Blue Pilled Knowles just put up a self-deprecating shot of his wife. Oh no. Well, yes, Knowles is he's kind of become the poster boy for this tonight because he's put himself in this space and been one of the most vocal about it. Matt Walsh is also big. Tim Pool has also said very many similar things about how he agrees with the descriptions. He just hates how we deal with them. And I'm like, okay, guys, but none of you have brought a better idea. That is with the totality of the data has been demonstrated to work. because you won't listen to us. Anyway, that's what I got. Do you two, do you have any final words you want to get in here?
I'll let Steve close.
Okay.
Oh, well, I just put this back up. Go through this list. Think about it. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Well, gentlemen, we have been going for almost 2 hours now. I think we have done this topic justice. It is on to other things. Nick, you have something for us on Wednesday, if I recall correctly?
No, Wednesdays when we're all
Oh,
doing
right. Wednesday, we're
uh,
doing the AI. It's
right.
next Wednesday. You have something for us. So I have the next two. I have the AI one on Wednesday, and then I have Monday. We're gonna go do a little bit of I don't know. Do we want to call this a post mortem of the recent volatility event? Because there's some interesting things that happened there, but kind of go over some financial stuff, some economic stuff, sort of step away from the red pill a little bit. Honestly,
I
I think
think that'll
Go
be
ahead.
great because it's time for a post-mortem. Because everybody talks about things in the moment, but reflecting back on what's happened, world events, financial events in the last 2-3 weeks,
hmm
that's useful. I find that very useful.
Well, the other thing I think is this episode is kind of the logical conclusion of a long series of episodes we've done that have been really red pill focused. The sophistry episodes, is the red pill amoral? What is the red pill? So, if you go look, we've kind of been hammering on this topic for a month now. And yeah, it's time to go off and do another thing. I think uh I think we've hopefully closed out a little bit, or at least to the point where now it's time for us to go back to the beginning of the loop and observe and see what people have to say about some of the stuff we brought up. So we're gonna go run off and do some other things now. I do want to thank George Bruno for giving us the idea on the AI stream. We That's going to be a fascinating one because the social implications are myriad.
Well, yeah, it's something about, is the AI going to replace women in some manner, right? Or do I have it wrong?
That's part of it. Yeah, that's he actually did it by sending us a link to one of the websites where you can pick your AI girlfriend. Oh yeah, no, it's
Oh, do I
definitely
get to choose her hair color too?
you actually
Oh,
can, that's all programmable. There's actually
Right.
a great scene in the new Blade Runner movie where he's talking to her and he's changing out some hardware and all of her stats come up and you could tell you could just change these stats right there. Uh, and we will probably actually get into a little bit of Blade Runner. I will have to be careful with clipping and whatnot of that because Blade Runner actually does touch on some of these topics, not in a Christian way. I'm going to leave that to Nick, but
gotcha.
there is there's actually quite a bit to talk about here. So I'm looking forward to that
I got a
one.
question for you.
Oh.
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Yeah, I love the callback. I wonder how many people are going to get the reference. Uh, for the audience, I will spoil it. That is the book that actually launched the Blade Runner movie series, or it's a short story, I guess, by Philip K. Dick. So that is that's the next two. Nick, are you up for the Wednesday after that? Is that what you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can do it.
I know you've been
I might.
researching stuff.
I got a bunch of stuff. I might just do. I think I might be overdue on polygamy. I might just do something on polygamy.
Oh yes, ooh, that will be a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that. So that's what we have for the next three. Beyond that, we're still kind of planning and trying to figure out what we want to do. So other than that, hey, if you guys enjoyed it, please share it, this video. If you want to hear more, drop us a subscribe. Likes kind of help the algorithm, not as much as they'll tell you. And leave a comment if you have a question. If you want to debate us on something, we would, particularly if you're willing to get up on stage and talk, we would love to have you up here. Or
debate
if
or discuss. Doesn't have to be a debate.
Yeah, we actually don't do a whole lot of formal debate, do we? Yeah. If you're a bigger creator, you want us to, we will even travel to your platform. We don't care, but if you have something you want to discuss with us, would love to join you and
I
talk
like
about
formal
it.
debate style. So
You do? You do?
Yeah, because you can't get overpowered by the strong personality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So
what a lot of the I've noticed some debates, and
yeah, it's true. Well,
it annoys the crap out of me. So
well, I think that's it for this evening. I had a great conversation with you guys. I do believe this is. Oh yeah, you could DM my secretary over there. She will set stuff up. So yeah, and with that, I think we're going to go ahead and we will see you all on Wednesday.
there, guys.
Okay, goodbye.